It's time to step into the Coming Out Lounge, a cool, safe space to be true to your sexual self. With your host, Rick Clemens. Rick has helped hundreds of people come out of the closet, and now each week he's bringing you cool insights for loving and accepting yourself, boosting your self-confidence, and living a guilt-free, purpose-filled life on the other side of the closet doors. Cuddle up with yourself and get ready for heartwarming coming out stories, ideas for living authentically, and tips for being fully self-expressed. Now here's your host, Coming Out Coach Rick.
Hello, Closet Busters. It's time once again to stop the closet dwelling and to step out, step up, and step into living your powerful truth. And I've got a question for you today. What if that living your powerful truth was really living life profoundly? What if you stepped into life from a completely surrendered, mindful space to accomplish those really great things and experience new adventures and started testing your limits? You know, maybe really just going through and being willing to let go and jump in. Because let me tell you what, when you do that, you're going to be a whole lot wiser. In fact, you're going to be more authentic. You're going to be a whole lot more triumphant, being the unique you that you were meant to be on this planet. Now, why do I bring all that up? Well, you know, I always bring really interesting guests onto the podcast. And today's guest has done a lot of work in all those areas that I just brought up. Work in his personal life that's really enabled him to help others discover more of themselves and their potential just by simply helping them let go and be. And the way he's done that is he's a yoga teacher, but he's also a public speaker, and he's a guy who really inspires people to just be who they're meant to be. He's mastered the art of connecting with people from all walks of life. In fact, the first moment I met this tall, lanky, handsome man, not only did I immediately develop like a huge man crush on him, I realized we were going to be really connected at the heart as brothers without our sexual orientation getting in the way. And that, interestingly enough, as you can hear by his laughter, is exactly what happened to us. So I want to bring to the podcast a world traveler, a real soul-centered human being, the co-founder of Yoga Adventures, my brother from another mother, Will Schneider. Welcome,
thank you so much, Rick, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be with your crew.
Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, everything I kind of led into is that's kind of how this friendship started. We were on a retreat together in Bermuda, and I don't know, we just kind of clicked, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a great time, Bermuda. I think it was like when you I really got to understand you a lot more when you we're doing your dig your diff quote.
Yep.
And I got to see how you view the world and the things that you do in order to help people. And it really kind of, clued me into, Rick Clemens.
Yeah.
And then we had I remember standing in the water having a great discussion about, digging your diff and the uniqueness and stuff that we had talked about. And I think that was the moment I was like, yeah, we got something here.
Yeah,
so it's a pleasure to be here for sure.
And then, girl, you had to come back and go, bitch, I don't know if dig your diff is really it. I think it's dig your uniqueness. And of course, then that changed everything. And but no, it has played a very critical piece in the new work that I'm building the foundation upon around everyone being really unique who they are in themselves. So, but enough about that. Let's kind of go back to you because, we always got to make it about you.
Oh, do we?
Yes. You tall, handsome, lanky guys. It's like, okay, we got to make sure the spotlight stays shining there, girl. So, anyway, but, I know you've done a lot of personal work to get to this space of really being able to own your own mindful way of being in the world. So why don't you give us just a little glimpse of what that journey's looked like for you to get to where you're at? Because, now that you're perfect, we all want to learn from it,
Well, Rick, it really started back when I was, 27 and 28 years old, and it happened through love. Like, I was in a relationship and thinking I have like kind of the perfect life set already. I was like, went to college, had the job, like already started like acquiring things. I got a car, had a nice place to live, and I met this amazing woman that really hit it off. And after just as quick as it started, like 4 or 5 months later, the relationship was over, and I was like kind of left with like that world that I thought like I was stepping into I realized it wasn't even mine. Like it was somebody else's bag of goods that have been sold to me at such a young age. And so at that moment, I really started doing some soul searching. And really what kind of, besides like Broken Heart, which really kind of started this awakening, I really started to do some digging and picked up a copy of The Artist's Way and started doing the entire book. And the thing that really helped me develop or understand myself, as well as begin to dig deeper into my own truth, was journaling. Is really where it started, like journaling every day for probably a couple years, for like 30 or 3 pages stream of thought, just kind of getting it out. And all of a sudden I started restructuring my entire life. And that brought me into, finding more, spaces to find more mindfulness, to find more peace. That brought me to meditation, and meditation brought me to yoga. And now here I am, like we're talking, and I'm teaching out there in the world in several different capacities. And it's just been beautiful to be able to help people in such a profound way.
Wow. It's interesting as you're talking, because you talk about, they're stepping into this love, this relationship, and then it was over, and discovering what you'd stepped into wasn't yours to be. It wasn't the way you're meant to be. And so there's the first parallel to, you as a heterosexual guy out there in the world making your successful life, and then boom, man, this isn't who I'm supposed to be. It's the parallel to those of us who are in the closet. And it's like, but wait, this isn't who I'm supposed to be. No matter what the world wants to put on me, no matter how they want to box me in, this just freaking isn't the way I'm supposed to be here in the planet. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened for you. So in that mire and muck and everything, what was some of the hardest stuff to kind of come face to face with?
That's a great question. Like, first, it was like an 8 or 9 month process for me to really kind of pick myself up from the depths of like what I was feeling and really kind of step into my own. And some of the muck was like, part of it was, the job I had wasn't making any sense to me at all, because again, it was part of that story that was not mine. So I started to look for ways and ways to express myself creatively. And in the process of doing that, I started like losing friends as well, who, a lot of the friends at the time I had were very already kind of bought and that package of who they should be. And as I began to change and understand more of myself, like it was just difficult to be around some of those people as well, just because they weren't, they weren't in that same space that I was. It was the journaling really helped me kind of make everything a little bit better every day as I journaled. And because the journal is kind of, they call it brain dump or mourning, like you're mourning a loss of something pages, because it's really just getting information out. So you kind of don't have that negative thoughts or that energy inside of you, and you're kind of a little bit more free to kind of go about the day more effectively to things that like really light you up and touch your heart.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the work of Julia Cameron and The Artist's Way, it's probably the most profound thing that I took away from that experience. And there's lots that Julia has done that I just love her to death. But
she's brilliant.
The morning pages, and I love how you did the metaphorical morning of letting go and all that. But the morning pages are a really powerful way of coming into the world each and every day. And basic premise is you keep a pad of paper, a journal, pen, pencil, whatever, next to your bed. And as the morning wakens you, before you can really just completely be like, okay, time for coffee, exercise, boom, 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 you pick up that book, that journal, that pad of paper, and stream of consciousness, which means stream of thought. You just start writing. And I remember as I've done this, and I do it not as frequently as I used to, but there'll be times when I'm really up against a wall in my life, and I'm like, okay, time to do the morning pages, here we go. And you just start writing, and there were days that I'm like, I don't know what to write. I really don't know what to write. And that would be all I would write. I'm like, I don't know what to write. I don't have a thing to say. I'd really rather be having coffee right now, And it is a true brain dump first thing in the morning. And some people will like scratch their head and go, really? Why would you do that? Well, don't criticize it until you've done it. It's amazing. It starts to open up for you. So you're going through these changes. I know you've done some acting, you've done some financial world sort of stuff, but still here you are. You're in your own quest, your own search to really come out and be the person you were meant to be. So 8-9 months into this, what started to shift for you?
I started to take action, so through the morning pages, I, realized the things that, what do I want to do? And the book itself is a beautiful, like, 12-week guide
Yeah.
of, it's beautiful lessons and exercise that I did, all of them. And I really just understood, like, how I wanted to live a more creative life instead of this kind of corporate confined thing that I was doing. So I started taking acting classes and just kind of expressing myself in a different way, not knowing where it was going to lead or not knowing what was going to happen, just knowing, like, intuitively, this is something that is going to help me.
Yep.
And help me, whatever it is. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And those are some of the actions that I started to take. And I really enjoyed kind of expressing myself in this way, and, like, just the discovery that came along with expressing myself in these classes. And I started to take it further. And, I was doing theater, and all of a sudden then I moved to New York because it was just it just tapped into me in such a way that I wanted to do more of it. And it was quite a journey being an actor for 10 years and getting on, like, soaps and doing theater and doing commercial work and making some money.
Yep.
And then, like, the mindfulness, I just wanted to teach more. So that's how I found the yoga world and meditation and mindfulness.
Awesome. And so for the younger generation who may be listening to this, soaps are something that you probably didn't have any idea what they are in this day and age, but they used to be the daytime shows. I mean, everybody. No, but I love this because I love that this is the generation we're in, where there's so much that can come from, a past point in time that can really inform, our audience. So the soaps were like the daytime standard. I mean, you had, Guiding Light and Days of Our Lives and, I don't know, Luke and Laura, and they just dominated daytime, TV for those who were at home, which I'm not going to be sexist, but basically, for the stay-at-home moms to kind of how you take care of your kids, you get the kids down, you watch your soap. It was the fabric of life at that point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason I'm bringing that up and that reference point, since you already brought it to us, is it was a different time on our planet too. And I think sometimes for us to be able to have the energy and the shifts and the tenacity to move forward, we kind of need to look back at where we were. And I know for me, during that time frame, it was a real struggle on who am I and how do I want to be. So sometimes anchoring into those, cultural phenomena sort of things and going, oh yeah, I remember when Fantasy Island was on in the Love Boat and all that good stuff. The plane. But it's amazing because it kind of helps you go, okay, so we have come far. And I think a lot of people who are struggling with this coming out process, whether they're pre-coming out, in the midst of it, just on the other side, it really helps to get some reference points of where we were as a planet years and years ago. So you've gone through this, you've gone through the acting stuff, you've done all this. And then you started to realize that this creative process was really, really opening you up to a different way of being in the world. So take us into that a little bit deeper. You just suddenly said, okay, one day I'm going to be a yoga instructor, and boom, there you were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I moved, so I was in Philadelphia at the time when I kind of had this epiphany or this kind of life-changing event. And then a few years later, I moved to New York. Through the process of acting and living that creative life, it put me in touch with this spiritual journey, in which I was questing for more truth, more truth, because the more truth I found as a person, the more truth I would bring to the life that I on stage or on camera. So it's a constant quest of finding more truth. And as I continually quested to find more of this truth, that's when meditation came my way. That's when yoga came my way. And I got so enamored by it that I ended up training, doing my first certification back in 2009 for yoga. And it's been a nonstop journey of just finding more ways to not just help myself find more truth and more authenticity and also stay grounded and centered, but also then to help other people achieve the same results, or at least have their authentic experience.
You said something here about the more truth I found as a person, the more truth I brought to the stage. And I'm feeling like I'm having my Oprah moment right now, because I'm like, okay, there's the tweetable right there. And I'm bringing that up only because as we find our truth, the more truth we bring to the stage of life. And that's when we begin to become that beacon. And I believe deep in my soul and in my being and in my belief system that every person on this planet is a beacon of light. And even those that we may think, oh, they're the most horrible people, well, just because of what they do or their actions doesn't mean in some way they're not a beacon. They may be the beacon to show this is what a horrible action looks like. Yeah. And I love that phrase, the more truth I bring, the more you came to it as a person yourself, the more truth you were able to bring to the stage. And I really encourage each person listening that your truth that you're bringing as you step through the closet door onto the new stage of your life is going to bring more truth that's going to help others, whether they are in alignment with who you are in your sexual orientation. There's a truth that they're going to confront about who they are and how they stand in their belief systems and things such as that. So we're coming to that space where, you're out, you're teaching yoga and everything, getting really mindful. And when you and I were having our pre-girl chat before the show a week or so ago, you brought up a quote that literally blew me away. I had heard it before, but it was just the way you delivered it, and it actually brought tears to my eyes because it really brought full circle a lot of things for me. Number one, it really kind of put another, space in my heart for our friendship, number one. And number two, it made me realize how much this decision to bring you on to the podcast was the right decision. So I'd love for you to share that quote with our listeners because it plays right into the whole coming out journey.
Cool. Well, this is from Chit Nahan, and he says, root out the violence in your life and learn to live compassionately and mindfully. Seek peace. When you have peace within, real peace with others is possible. Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our hearts we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free.
Each line of that has such a significance to the coming out journey, and I'd love to take line by line. I know we got time to do this and just kind of talk through it. So the first line is, the root out the violence in your life, and there's this violence that all of us as humans go through about not feeling good enough. And I know it kind of sounds weird to say that's a piece of violence in our life, but it is. It's a wrecking ball against ourselves, and especially in our journey out of the closet, there's a lot of violence towards ourselves, shame, guilt, all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't matter if it's gay or straight. There's coming out that's happening, and I love that space of root out the violence. So if you can take that step and start to get rid of just a little bit of violence towards yourself or even others as you go through these challenges that we call the coming out process, whether you're coming out gay or straight, or you're coming out like, oh, I'm going to get out of this relationship, or I'm going to come out and leave this job that's no longer serving me. Whatever it is, try to get rid of the violence. So let's go ahead with what's the second line there in that beautiful
Well, let me just say also the violence, I think it starts with language, how we speak to ourselves.
Absolutely.
I think it's really important. And you can get really clear with the journaling we talked about to tap into that language that does not serve you, right? Yeah. And then develop language that does.
Yeah.
Right. And it all starts with internal experience. So starting in that play, and that'll help you root out the violence of the people that, don't appreciate you coming out to whatever that is, that new job or to your sexual orientation. So you'll begin to look for things in your life that do not serve you or that act as like something of violence that inhibits your growth.
It is that piece of watch your words. Yeah, not only when you speak to others, but yourself. And you've done some work around nonviolent communication stuff too, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm starting to tap into nonviolent communication just because it's like really it's a true way to speak. Like this is Marshall Rosenberg, his book, just brilliant work, and it really he's developed this nonviolent communication method which taps into our true nature of giving.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Awesome. Okay, so what's that next line of that quote then?
The next line feeds right from the first one. It says to root out the violence and then learn to live compassionately and mindfully. Mm-hmm. Right. So instead of speaking to yourself in a violent way or destructive way, how can you be more compassionate in the way you speak to yourself and the way you express yourself in the world? And mindfully comes back to like pick and choosing your words. Like, is this something that makes me feel good, or is that something that tears me down?
Right. And the thing that I always have gathered from that line of this quote is living compassionately starts with being compassionate towards yourself. Yep. But don't forget that's the training grounds for being compassionate towards others. There's going to be a lot of people in this journey coming out where you're going to probably not get the compassion you would like. But by having it towards yourself, it's going to be much easier to be compassionate towards those that aren't showing it to you. And it's going to stop you and help you begin to be mindful of, rather than knee-jerk reactions, how do I want to be in this moment? How do I choose to respond to this person who's telling me you're sinning, you're this, you're that, against the belief system? It's like, pause, step into your compassionate self, be very mindful in your response, and you're going to find that if you can do this, and it takes practice. This isn't like Will and I aren't waving my beautiful fairy godfather wand here and saying this is going to be easy shit to do.
No, it's not. No, it's a practice every day.
It is every day.
Every day.
Absolutely.
And you keep putting forth the practice, you catch yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't need to say that to myself. Nor, like, if you're interacting with somebody else, I don't need to be that way with them.
Yeah.
So you're always being like this compassionate mindfulness that's going on with like a nonviolent way of being.
Absolutely. So carry us forward on into the quote then.
So seek peace that's the next sentence. Seek peace, right? I mean, so it's like, and that's an energetic thing. It's like, what makes me feel peaceful? Mm-hmm. Right? We know what that is intuitively. And sometimes maybe you don't know, our audience doesn't know what those things are for themselves. But again, writing them down, contemplating, talking to somebody, getting a coach, like, what makes you peaceful, and how do you continually find ways to access and bring more peace into your life?
Well, and I think for me, I know when I was going through this journey, it was really hard to get to a peaceful space. I was going through a divorce with a woman that I did care about, but there were lots of moments where we couldn't come to peaceful, ground simply because I was a jerk, basically. I married her and then said, oh, this is my truth. But then there was peace with my parents I was trying to battle. And what I finally came to was, I need to find the peace that is the best way to be at peace in this moment. I can't necessarily convince somebody that I am right as a gay man. I can't expect them to like wipe their hands and say, okay, I forgive you. Let's just find the peace that is the best part of peace we can be at for now. It may not be the ultimate peace, and it may take years and years and years to get to that space. If you focus on it, has to be a peaceful resolution this way, the way I want it to be in my life right now, and it doesn't work that way. So find the peace that works in the moment, and it may be the only peace you can get is, I am at peace with myself.
Yep.
That's the best place all you can do. I mean, that may be all you can do. So, okay, so we have seek peace, and then what comes after that?
And then just to expand on seeking peace, when you have peace within, right, real peace with others is possible. Mm-hmm. It's just a simple equation, right? If I'm peaceful here, I'm peaceful out there.
You and I experienced this in Bermuda. When I came to peace that he wasn't gay and he wasn't going to have any interest in me, then I was peaceful and we had a great time. So there you have it,
Sorry, Rick.
That's okay. But that's no, seriously, folks, we had so much fun teasing each other about this, but I think it's interesting because there was a peace within that we like really started to get each other. Yeah. And man, it was just like we had some interesting conversations, and then we started realizing, okay, we've got a bromance going on here that's really fun, and we really enjoy having these conversations with each other. So the peace within is definitely that big chunk of, then you can do this for others. And until you have that within yourself, trust me, listeners, until you're at peace with yourself about who you are in your sexual orientation, in how you show up as a gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, just how you show up as a human. Until you can come to peace with that, I hate to say it, you're going to have a lot of struggle and a lot of strife. Yeah.
Again, it's a daily practice.
Absolutely.
Daily practice. So the next sentence says, if that's where you want to go.
Yep.
Okay, so it says, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. Like, what a powerful statement. I use this a lot in my classes. I use this a lot when I teach meditation or like the asana practice of yoga. Yep. And it's like, it's loaded. Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. The letting go piece, like, is like what's holding you back? Like, what are the things that are not working for you? You know, that could be relationships, that could be habits that you have in your life. There's a lot of different things that kind of hold us down. And again, being mindful, being compassionate, journaling, finding the things that you need to let go, and those things are going to bring forth freedom.
Well,
right?
and for people who are contemplating coming through the closet doors, that's the letting go. When you put your hand on that closet door handle and say, I'm opening this door and I'm letting go of any false beliefs I have about what's going to happen when I'm on the other side. I just have to let this go and just be in what comes. You're going to experience a huge amount of freedom. I remember, and I think I've shared this a couple of times on the show, but I remember the day that I lived in Laguna Beach at the time, Laguna Beach, California. And I was, as all gay men do, trying to get my booty and everything in shape because, it was all about the manhunt, right? So I'm out there going to go do my run down the beach. And I loved running. It was the only place I actually enjoyed running. I enjoy running on the beach. Go to run, and I had dropped about 100 pounds by that point, which was a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, congratulations.
And the one thing I'd always wanted to do was just run with my shirt off. But I never could do that because I'm like, somebody's going to see me, and then I remember as I started running, I saw this other guy coming towards me, and of course, he was knockout gorgeous. I'm like, oh my God, he was beautiful for his chest. He was like the epitome of the guy for me. And he ran past me, and I'm like, I could never do that. I could never do that. And then suddenly I had this Hulk Hogan moment where I'm like, oh yes, I can. And I literally grabbed my t-shirt at my collar and I ripped it open. And I remember that letting go of that belief that I couldn't run with my t-shirt off.
Yeah.
And it was so freeing, and it was such a happy moment.
Yeah. It's like, it's those little moments that keep bringing you forward.
Yeah.
It's the little things. It's all in the little things. Obviously we talked about the violence. It starts with language, something so small. Same thing with freedom. Like, it could be, I think a lot of people look at this work of coming out or discovering that personal freedom as it's this huge moment that happens. Right?
Well, but in your work, I remember when we were in Bermuda and we were doing some of the yoga, and I do yoga pretty regularly, and I remember you coming up and saying, shift your foot just slightly this way. And I thought, oh, good, he's going to touch my foot. But no, sorry. Okay, I know. I'm getting a little carried away. But, it was really amazing. It was that one little shift that helped me let go into a deeper movement in that posture. It was like, oh, I get why he had me do this. So even in the movements of yoga, it's that, take that breath. Just move that foot, move that arm, move that hand, do that stretch slightly. It's the little movements that actually are the things that free us so much to be exactly how we're meant to be in our lives.
Yeah, and also gives us, by tapping into that freedom, it gives us the confidence to go to the next one and then to the next one, and they start to build, and all of a sudden you are, like you mentioned, turning the doorknob and opening up that door and be like, here I am, free,
absolutely,
like a truly free human being.
Absolutely. Okay, so where are we in the quote?
The last one. Here he goes. He says, so he puts it all together. He goes, if in our hearts we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. And if that just clear, it kind of
that's so true.
Yeah, it's
so
just like,
true.
And it says, it's funny. He says, in our hearts.
Yeah.
Because why? That's our truth. Yeah. That's what we're trying to tap into. That's what we're trying to live from, that heart space. Yeah. But we still have anger or anxiety, possessions, or in that space, it's like it's going to be tough to let go and be yourself.
Well, and the thing is it can be in our ego, in our head, that we can have those things there. But we've got to let it go in our hearts, because when we do in our hearts, then the ego lets go too. It's like, okay, it's surrendering. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but that's actually what happens. At least that's my perspective, what happens. Yeah. Every time I finally relinquish from my heart center, then the ego kind of goes, okay, I'm going on a smoke break. I'll be back in another few hours to kind of try this with you again. But it's interesting because that's exactly what happens. Now, I have this theory about ego, and it's not my theory. It's one that I've been taught and I practice. The ego serves a really beautiful space in this whole journey. The ego is here to ensure that we get stuff done. It's to make sure that we get the bills paid and that we show up for Will's yoga class and that we get the book put out and, all these different things. It's the timeline stuff. But the moment we start letting that ego drive the heart is when we come up against our biggest roadblocks. And when we can let the heart take the ego and ask it to gently go surrender, go sit over there on the shelf, let the ego go have its smoke break, so to speak. Actually, I prefer it would go have a little yogurt break or something like that. But, we have to give the ego permission to go away and say, thank you for serving me in the way you have. Then it helps the heart do what the heart is meant to do here, and we can let go of all those possessions, the anger and all that stuff. And trust me, if you're going through the coming out process, even if you have the most embracing family and friends, you will come up against your own level of anger through this process. There's going to be something that's going to show up, whether it's your own belief in yourself or something that happens on the news, or, you're going to feel it. And so just remember to step into your hearts and be willing to relinquish it. Yeah.
I think it's, I think one thing about the ego, I think is interesting. It's always going to be there.
Yep.
It's always going to be there. And I think it's, and we have to know that because it wants to be heard. It's its own entity, right?
Yep.
So we have to give it a time to exercise.
Yeah.
So that's why, if you're living through that heart space and being out there and being heartful in your actions, and using the mind more as a tool, which it should be used for, not as like the driver.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. So, wow, we've covered a lot of territory here, bro.
Notes at the end of the day, writing like just what you're grateful for, just kind of exercise, or like whatever kind of complaining that was out, that violent kind of stuff that was happening, get it out, write it out, just kind of exercise it and change the relationship to the ego and let it work for you instead of against you.
Absolutely. So we have covered a lot of territory here in 30 minutes, and you've been awesome. But I want to make sure we get to talk about what you got going on. You've got, one of your yoga retreats coming up here real soon. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about that?
I'm going down to Guatemala, February 20th to the 27th. We call ourselves the Yoga Adventure because we're a true believer in not just like, using, yoga and mindfulness, but also a great sense of adventure. So we'll be like hiking and kayaking and swimming, and then also like, morning yoga and meditations in the afternoon, in the mornings as well. And just having a great fun experience, exploring a new place, a new world, as well as like we have like 18 or 20 people coming down. We only have 4 spots left. Note. Yeah. Just community is a great way that we help people kind of connect themselves as well as through other people.
And I can personally attest to the fact that his yoga retreat experience, not that I've been on it, but I had a little taste of it in Bermuda, between him and his partner Xander, man, they bring it, and they bring it really, really amazing. It was so fascinating to me to watch how they masterfully take you through a yoga experience. And we had a bunch of guys that had never even done yoga before, and it was just a beautiful experience to watch these guys surrender and step into it in a beautiful way that they did. And I can tell you that his business partner Xander and you both just do a fantastic job. So if anyone is interested in trying to catch the late train to the retreat, what's the best place for them to go check it out, Will?
Let's go to theyogaadventure.com.
Awesome. And we'll have that up.
Just as it's spelled. Yeah, thank you for that.
We'll have that up on the webpage. And if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best website to find you?
So you can hit me up through my blog, which is willnotfear.com.
Yeah.
So it's my name, Will, Notfear, or social media @willnotfear.
Yeah.
And even my email is willnotfear@gmail.com.
He will not fear anything. That's why it's everywhere. So, and it will be, all of that will be on our show page as well, to promote him. But, so one thing that I always do at the end of every show, Will, is I ask one question. This is the Coming Out Lounge, and, people show up here from all walks of life, predominantly from the LGBT community, but I'm noticing there's a lot of other people starting to eavesdrop on these conversations. And for anyone who's really feeling challenged by coming out to be who they're meant to be, whether they're gay or straight or coming out of a cancer scare or, leaving a job, what words of wisdom would you like to leave the listeners with about coming out to really be who they're meant to be in the world?
I would. One of the first things I would do is surround yourself with what you want and the people that you want in your life that are doing those types of things. We are the sum total of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And that also goes for reading or like checking out podcasts and stuff like that. It's like surround yourself with the things that you want in your life and the people that you want in your life and people that that inspire you to step out into your power, into who you are, into your authentic self. And I think that's definitely one way to kind of keep the encouragement going, to stay on the path, and knowing that hey, if other people are doing it, I can do it too.
Absolutely, and it is about surrounding with the things that inspire. I'm going through a lot of that myself these days, of making room for what inspires me and getting rid of what takes away from where I'm at. So I want to thank you, bro, for taking time and stepping in and really being an inspiration today. And I love the conversation, and you know how much I love you. So thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, Rick, I felt really honored to be part of this, as a straight man too, to be able to talk to your audience like this. Cause I think that coming out, everybody's coming out from somewhere.
Yeah.
Or hiding from something in the closet.
Absolutely.
And, I really appreciate being part of this and being able to talk to you and your listeners about.
Absolutely. And this won't be the last time, because I think you and I could have a really powerful conversation around the relationship between gay men and straight men and how you can really amp up that volume to make the world a better place. So I would love to have that. Please. I just wrote that down and told my assistant that she's going to have to get that one handled, which really my assistant is that little cranky black diva in my head called Lemonade Pop, who has to take care of all this stuff when I don't. So she'll be getting in contact with you, sugar.
Good. I love to come back. Thank you, Rick. This has been, you're right, 30 minutes flies right now.
Yeah, it does. So, and if you've enjoyed what you've heard today between Will and I, don't forget to hop over to iTunes when you have a chance, or even Stitcher, wherever you're listening to us. And if you feel compelled, and I only want you to do this if it's like really touched you, to leave us a rating or a review. Share this with your friends and family. It's one of the best ways to get this out into the world and touch those who need to be touched in the heart and the minds to really begin to shift the planet. And while you're at it, you can always touch base with me over at Facebook at The Coming Out Coach, or tweet me at Rick Clemens and use the hashtag The Coming Out Lounge. And don't forget, in just a couple of weeks, my book is coming out. I'm really thrilled to be bringing my journey. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Frankly, My Dear, I'm Gay. It's a late bloomer's guide to coming out. And I want to make sure that those of you who are listening to it, it's not just for those who are late in life coming out, because late bloomers could be, you're 24 and at 18 you felt like you should have come out, but you're just now getting around to it. Late bloomer is late bloomer, however that fits in your mind. So that's going to be coming out. You can get a peek at the book at frankly, And with that, I'm going to quit the selfless, shameful self-plugging going on there. And we're going to say, just go out there and keep doing what you're doing and never stop stepping out, stepping up, and stepping into living your powerful truth. I'm Rick Clemens, the Coming Out Coach, and the host of the Coming Out Lounge, and we will catch you in just another week. Take care, have a great one, and be well, be blessed, and be you.
You've just experienced the Coming Out Lounge. Go online to www.comingoutlounge.com to learn more, and tune in again next week for more stories and tips for being true to yourself.